Following breaking news for you right now at noon, what investigators are now calling the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. We have just learned at least 50 people are dead, and more than 50 are being treated at local hospitals after a mass shooting inside an Orlando nightclub.
Florida Governor Rick Scott has just issued a state of emergency for the city of Orlando. As a result, we are live right now with the very latest information from Orlando Police Headquarters, where witnesses are gathering to tell police what they saw.
And our reporters, as you might imagine, are standing by at Orlando Regional Medical Center, where many of the shooting victims are being treated, and family members of those victims are waiting for information to come in about their loved ones.
In the latest news conference, and after searching the nightclub, the death toll more than doubled to 50. Another 53 again are hospitalized. CBS News identified the shooter as Omar Mateen, a U.S. citizen from Port St. Lucie. However, the FBI have not confirmed his identity yet. They have confirmed that he was killed during the shooting spree.
Orlando police say he had 2 weapons on him, a handgun and an AR-15 assault rifle. It is unclear at this time how many rounds were fired. Again, 50 people killed, 53 others hospitalized. The suspect shot and killed. We do know one Orlando police officer was shot in the head. And if this does not get your attention, I don't know what else will. The bullet hit his Kevlar helmet, saving his life. He does have some injury to his eye, but he survived with just minor injuries, we're told. Thank you for staying with us during this live extensive coverage, everyone. I'm Ginger Gadsden.
And I'm Justin Wormuth, and News 6 is going to be getting results for you throughout the day on this story.
Right now, local law enforcement and the FBI are calling this an act of domestic terrorism. And as we just said, the shooter in this is dead.
Do you have any reason to think that there's a connection to radical Islamic terrorism?
I would say at this time we're looking into all angles right now. We do have suggestions that that individual may have gleanings towards that particular ideology, but right now we can't say definitively, so we're still running everything to ground.
The incident started around 2 this morning at the entrance to Pulse nightclub in downtown Orlando. That's on Orange Avenue near Cayley Street. Orlando police say an officer was working extra duty hours in uniform at the club when he heard reports of shots fired.
Oh my God. After that officer responded, OPD says 2 other officers in the area responded and engaged the suspects. That's when we're told Mateen went inside the club, and that's when it became a hostage situation. Investigators say about 3 hours later, they were getting contacted by a group of people who were in a different area inside that nightclub, cowering and hiding. That's when officers made the decision right then to go in. We're told they set off a few controlled explosions to get the gunman's attention before using their Bearcat armored truck to break through a wall into that nightclub, and that's when they rescued some 30 people. Police say there are about 320 people inside the club at the time this shooting went down. News 6 reporter Mike DeForest is gathering the latest information. He joins us where law enforcement have now set up a command post, and it is just blocks away from the actual nightclub. Mike.
Road in front of the nightclub, as well as near Orlando Regional Medical Center. It was just a little while ago when Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer came out to the press area here for a briefing, and there was an audible gasp among the observers here when he announced that there were 50 deaths. Some were confused, maybe that included injuries. No, 50 dead in that nightclub. Take a look at this video. As you mentioned, police say it was around 2 o'clock in the morning when they got those first reports of shots fired. Fortunately, it sounds like an Orlando police officer was right there and exchanged gunfire with this gunman. Then it sounds like the gunman retreated back into the nightclub. That's when that hostage situation began. Orlando police tell us that they were in communication with the gunman during that 3-hour hostage standoff. Authorities are not disclosing what the contents of that discussion would be, but we can only imagine they gleaned some information about his motivations. Motivations at this point that still remain unclear, although the FBI hinting that they are hearing that there may be leanings of radical Islamic terrorism involved in terms of this gunman. Here's what the police chief had to say about his fellow police officers who responded here early this morning.
You could tell that they were all shaken by this incident, by what they saw inside the club. They did a unbelievable job, courageous efforts in rescuing many, many hostages, at least 30 from inside the club. But after it was all said and done, you can tell really this kind of tragedy takes a toll on everyone, even law enforcement officers.
Also bear in mind that we do not want to jeopardize the investigation. While we feel confident right now there are no other threats to the immediate area or the United States of America, we need to be certain of that before we put any further information out.
At this point, the FBI is not publicly identifying the gunman. CBS News, though, is reporting that the gunman is 30-year-old Omar Mateen, a U.S. citizen who lives in Port St. Lucie, Florida, South Florida. They report that he has parents from Afghanistan. Now, I've done some research. I found out that there is a man with that exact same name who is a licensed security guard, an armed licensed security guard here in Florida. We still need to verify that is the same individual, but nonetheless, the FBI are looking into this and his possible ties to radical Islamic terrorism. That information coming from U.S. Senator Bill Nelson. He just came up to the podium a little while ago and said that that's what the FBI is telling him. In addition, he is hearing from his Senate intelligence officials that this may also have some ISIS ties. He's not 100% definitive on that, but that is something that's the chatter that Senator Bill Nelson is hearing among the intelligence circles in Washington. So a very active scene out here as police continue to enter the nightclub to try to retrieve those bodies. More importantly, they're caring for those who have been injured in this horrific attack overnight.
Mike DeForest, and I believe this is the first time we're actually seeing what appears to be a mugshot of some sort of that suspect, Omar Mateen. And while we still have Mike DeForest there, what I know you said that you're one of our investigators, and you know how this will all play out. I know the FBI is doing what they generally call a scrub of all of his social media sites. Give us an idea of some of the things that they might be looking for.
I think it's going to boil down to his associates first. You work in circles in law enforcement. You start close and move out. So first is going to be his family, his friends, certainly his electronic devices and any kind of traces that he may have left, explaining perhaps why he did this. We do know that law enforcement is outside the gunman's home in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I know that last check, it seemed like they were still waiting on a warrant to actually get into that house, just so they do everything by the book. But once they get into that home, you can only imagine they'll be seizing any electronics, communications, try to find out whether this individual was truly a lone wolf, whether he did this on his own, or whether there may be others who were aware of this, who may have supported it, may have driven him here. We just don't know. The other big question a lot of people have is, what is the motivation behind this? Was this some sort of ideological attack, as what Congressman Alan Grayson has said out here earlier today? Could it be unrelated to that, and is it perhaps a hate crime in terms of this being a gay nightclub? A lot of different possibilities out there. You know, the FBI is looking at all of these. Perhaps it's a combination of them all. We just don't know, and that's why the FBI is urging you to be patient, saying these answers will come out. We may not get them right away, but they are looking into this. Ginger.
Mike DeForest reporting live for us. We will stay in touch. Thank you, Mike.
And as the day has developed, we've been able to talk to some of the people who were inside the nightclub when the shooting started. News 6 reporter Eric Sandoval is live outside Orlando Regional Medical Center. And Eric, what are people there telling you?
Well, I can tell you right now that ORMC is still under lockdown, Justin, and it's not because of any threat that's been made against the hospital. This is standard protocol when a mass shooting like this happens. When they have a lot of gunshot victims going into the emergency room here, they have to lock down. They don't know if a gunman is still on the loose, but in any case, they don't want just anybody walking through those doors in the emergency room. Now, as far as who is here at ORMC, you can see right behind me, some people have actually come with signs of inspiration. This one says, "Bless Orlando, our world. When the power of love overcomes the when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." Of course, that's followed by the hashtag Pray for Orlando. Now, we have these people with signs. That is a stark contrast to what it looked like about 5 o'clock this morning. We have some video that we shot of pickup trucks actually coming here to Orlando Regional Medical Center. These trucks had one of the Orlando police officers inside it that was shot during that shootout at Pulse nightclub this morning. His life was actually spared by the Kevlar helmet he was wearing. He was followed by numerous ambulances. We lost count of the number of ambulances arriving here at ORMC this morning, all with the 53 victims that were shot or wounded during that shootout. We talked with somebody who lives right across the street from ORMC just a short time ago, and she says she was heart-wrenched when she found out what happened. Listen.
It woke us up. The explosion woke us up this morning, and then we would hear people running by the house screaming. I think on their way to the hospital because we're living across the street right now.
And at first she thought those people screaming was just another Saturday night here in the downtown area. People, possibly getting drunk and just having fun. But when the reality set in, she heard the sirens, she heard everything else, the explosive concussion that she talked about, which was a diversionary tactic for the Orlando police SWAT teams. That's when the reality really set in. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions about, how do I find out if my friends or family were inside the Pulse nightclub? A hotline has been set up for friends and family who are very concerned if their loved ones were inside or if they know their loved ones were inside to find out their condition. We have that number up on the screen right now. Mayor Buddy Dyer, Sheriff Jerry Demings, and the whole onslaught, Orlando Police Chief John Mina, all announcing that hotline set up this morning to help the residents of Orlando and beyond find out if their friends and family are here. We're live at Orlando Regional Medical Center this afternoon. Eric Sandoval, News 6. Justin?
All right, Eric, we will check back in with you in just a few minutes. As for that suspect, while the FBI has not confirmed his identity, CBS News is reporting his name is Omar Mateen from Port St. Lucie.
He was born in 1986 and killed overnight. His parents, according to documents, from Afghanistan. Right now, investigators are going through 2 homes that may belong to him. You're looking at live pictures now at one of the scenes. This is on South 17th Street, Fort Pierce. This home is registered to Mateen. According to CBS News, there are 2 active scenes happening in Port St. Lucie. The other one is on Southwest Bayshore Boulevard at a home he has listed as his address in the past. Now, multiple agencies are on scene at both homes right now, trying to learn more about who we believe this gunman is.
And right now,